not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Betancourt.
And my name is Magdalena Ropesa,
And this is CUNY News.
What is SB 1070? Do you know? It was a law that was supposed to be enacted on July 29, 2010, that basically made it a crime to be an immigrant in the state of Arizona, where this law was created. The law first started out in the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, ending up with a 4-4 tie decision on whether all 4 aspects of the law should be struck down. It then moved its way up to the Supreme Court to determine its constitutionality. Once there, in an 8-0 decision, the Supreme Court struck down 3 out of the 4 provisions of the law, keeping only Section 2B standing, the "Show me your papers" clause.
As the Supreme Justices sat down, they carefully thought about each section of SB 1070 and whether or not they were all constitutional. Starting off with Section 2B of SB 1070, the Supreme Court upheld this section. Section 2B has 2 circumstances in which a police officer can stop and ask for a person's immigration papers. One circumstance would be if a police officer has reasonable suspicion of a person being an illegal immigrant. Then they can detain the person and ask them to show their immigration papers. Reasonable suspicion is the same logic that police officers use for the stop and frisk policy used in New York City. Some New Yorkers felt prosecuted by the stop and frisk policy, so imagine how immigrants feel in Arizona. The other circumstance is that if a person is arrested for doing something illegally, the police officer can then again ask for their immigration papers. The Supreme Court decided to uphold on this section of the SB 1070 because originally Arizona had the discretion of asking people of their immigration status. This law just makes it mandatory for all police officers to do so.
Section 3 of SB 1070 made it illegal, meaning you can get arrested to walk around in Arizona without valid immigration papers. This section was struck down by the Supreme Court because it conflicted with federal alien registration requirements set up by Congress, which states that if an alien is in fact walking around without valid immigration papers, they will be fined and it will only be a misdemeanor. Congress made it so the area of alien registration left no room for states to butt in, yet here was Arizona trying to butt in.
Section 5C makes it a crime for a non-documented immigrant to apply or have a job. It was immediately struck down because it conflicted with the federal law that does not criminalize undocumented immigrants looking for work. Arizona tried to argue that the law does not interfere with the federal law because unlike the federal law, it does not deal with employers. Obviously, the Supreme Court found this flawed and struck this section down.
Section 6 of SB 1070 makes it completely okay to arrest people without a warrant as long as the police officer has probable cause to believe that a person has committed an offense that would make it possible for them to be removed from the United States. Just like Section 3, it was struck down because Arizona once again conflicted with the federal entity known as the removal system, which outlines the steps in which a person can be deported. If these kinds of arrests were allowed, it would conflict with the procedures outlined.
So at this point, you might be asking yourself, how does this affect anyone? Well, first off, it affects police officers. Yes, whether or not you might agree, the passing of Section 2B opens the floodgates on how police officers can interpret this law. Police officers have to make sure not to radically profile, and even if they try, there's still a chance they can be sued. If anyone believes the police officers are being too lenient or too strict with the law, they can sue the police officer. It paves the way for many frivolous lawsuits. Secondly, it heavily affects immigrants, whether they may be legal or illegal. It makes them feel prosecuted. Think about it like this. In Nazi Germany, the same things were done. Jewish people, or people who appeared to be Jewish, were repeatedly stopped and asked to show their papers to a Nazi shoulder. The only difference is that this is happening in the United States of America, the land of the free, right? Lastly, this law has caused many other states such as Alabama, Georgia, Indiana, South Carolina, and Utah to come up with laws like Arizona. So after watching this announcement, what are your opinions?